Welcome to the Career Wanderlust podcast, your compass for new career horizons. Today, we are talking with Matt Warzel. Matt is a CPRW-certified resume writing expert and career coach with over 20 years in human resources and career advancement techniques. He manages MJW Careers and provides assistance to companies in transition from downsizings to buyouts, as well as individual job seekers who need to advance their careers. He has a long history working in HR and human services and on recruitment and staffing teams across a variety of industries, and he now helps clients build their career paths or navigate their career journeys. And I'm very excited to learn more. Matt, thank you for joining us on the Career Wanderlust podcast.
Thank you for having me, Jolie. Hopefully I can leave a couple nuggets here for some folks.
Oh, I'm sure you can. I mean, clearly, resume writing is a strength of yours. And as a recruiter, I know how important that resume is. I mean, you only have a few seconds to grab their attention. I would love to know, what is your best advice around resume writing, and what have you found to be the bigger mistakes people make on their resumes?
Excellent. Yeah, thank you. Well, and I kind of will probably use some of the language I use when I'm discussing the folks that are interested in working with me. It's kind of easy to digest. I will say personally, I'd put my resume content in 3 buckets. Okay, so bucket 1 is going to be what's relatable. And it's as simple as looking at job descriptions, right? Because I was a recruiter for 12 years and we are relying on our hiring managers to guide us into what they need. We are not being paid to be in their position. We're being paid to recruit. And people go, why? How can you recruit aerospace engineers? Well, I don't have to go to aerospace engineering school. I understand the process of recruiting an aerospace engineer. So there's a difference there, right? So we are going to ask them the questions and dig as recruiters. So then when I go to post this thing, I'm going to get candidates that understand all that goes into this role. So if candidates lean on that, look at the role, look at the top, 5, 10 things and reverse engineer those into your resume, but then put a little onus on it. Yes, Mr. Mrs. Manager, I've done these 5 or 10 things. In fact, look at my resume. Let's get into discussing how I personally had a success with that particular descriptor. Also a good way to upskill. So if you see technologies, methodologies, certificate, whatever, that are in the job descriptions that you don't have, probably a good idea to get them if it's not a one-off niche type of role. So or proprietary, right? Because there's a lot of companies that'll build their own software. That kind of stuff can get a little hazy depending. But again, reverse engineer and then use any of the language again from the job description. So that's the relatability bucket. The operational bucket is anything with metrics and facts. So data, success. So, profits and productivity, efficiency, bottlenecks and cutting expenses and inventory management, market share. And there's just so much stuff we're held accountable to. Even if you think I never have performance reports or, not in my role, I use metrics for every single role that you can think of. So there's ways to figure either out your metrics or at least be enough with the word manipulation that will show that you are focusing on a metric, but there's just no tangible number there, right? Or I have like pharma salespeople that can't spill the goods, legally. So there's ways to get creative, but just try your best to weave in a number, or at least a sentences that show some of that bottom line impact. Third bucket's unique, anything unique. So awards, speeches, high profile clients, media appearances, Olympic appearances, if you were a track athlete or something, or you played in the NFL, or things that get people going, oh, that's pretty cool. Doesn't have to take up a ton of space, but it is really neat to show off some of the rarities that you might not see in other candidates. So between all 3 of those buckets, what I do then, I tell people, I build it like I'm building a Lego set. Everyone's got, blues and reds and yellows, and there's 4 colors and 4 dots and 2 dots and the thick one. But when we start doing it, everyone's going to come out differently, right? So my goal is then take this content and get it in the least amount of words as possible. I do not add words for the sake of it. This is think of it like a screenplay. Every line matters. That's at least good screenplays. And you're trying to move your story forward, right? So why bog them down with stuff that doesn't matter? They're going to lose the relevance, or they're going to lose the interest, or they're going to miss something that really would have sold you. And I see that a lot when people go, I apply to the job and I'm a good fit. Well, yeah, but you're using a resume that probably had a bunch of garbage between the main points that they were focused on. So tailoring is key nowadays. We used to kind of preach this anyways. Now it's kind of mandatory to tailor. It's not even a question. So least amount of words possible. I tell them, my clients, you're giving the hiring manager the meal. That's the resume. They eat it up. They love it. Now they want to kiss the chef. Now they want to talk to you at the interview and go over the ingredients, because when you focus on the ingredients in a resume, it can get long-winded, or you're going to lose interest from a recruiter or a sourcer that never went to school as an aerospace engineer. So they're like, hey, save the acronyms for elsewhere. Put a skills section, throw it under there. Put it somewhere where, yeah, it's going to be crawled by the ATS and parsed accordingly, but it's not in the middle of the sentences and it's not bogging down. So cause and effect statements for each single line of dialogue. Cause and effect. I did this. Here's the outcome. Did that.
Yes.
And then again, when you're in the interview room with the technical people, then you can talk about how the heck you went from A to Z and share that. Right. And then use your resume as a springboard. So that's another little crib sheet for you. Now you have stuff to actually talk about.
Exactly. The cause and effect is absolutely vital. I find that for me, I immediately look for the accomplishments. Immediately. That's what I want to see. What did you do? Not the, the responsibilities. I already know if you have that job, you have these level of responsibilities. But what were you able to do while you were there? Put that on your resume. Yes. And the ones who do are head and shoulders above the ones who don't. Absolutely. So
yes,
great advice. Yes. Now, what about when you get into the interview? I mean, right now, really, most of our interviews are by webcam at this point in time. So are there best practices that you would give people specifically for a webcam interview?
Excellent. So essentially the first thing is piggybacking off what I said. The confidence is key for any interview, in person, Zoom, phone. Having the wherewithal to know yourself and how you relate to that opening that you're speaking about is going to be the number one, because now there's no dead space or there's no thinking of creating a project out of thin air or trying to remember something from 2 years ago that relates. If you do your research, and I know this sounds it's such adage, but it's so important. Do as much robust research as possible, right? Use the ChatGPT to figure out what's this company's vision or their, leadership qualities or whatever these things are called anymore on the website. But go and figure out their culture stuff. Go and figure out what they've been doing in the news. Go and figure out how their stock is doing or how they're doing in the industry. Go and figure out what that office and that location is kind of doing. And all of it will uncover itself. And if it doesn't, at least you have a few different pieces that may have. So research is key. So that now you're prepared with, here's some things I want to talk about that I know they relate to that job. Mm-hmm. Right. And then, having the wherewithal to know yourself. So you're able to navigate the, tell me about yourself questions or strengths and weaknesses. And I would say, all these interviews are essentially twofold, right? You're either getting one that's going to be reducing a red flag, because us as recruiters, we look at you going, tell me you're not a bonehead, because right now, everyone in front of me is someone who is not to be trusted until you convince me that you are trustworthy. Then I'll pass you up, right? Because we're very cynical and we understand how it works and we don't want to get burned like we always do or have been in the past.
Yes.
And so you either are exhausting that red flag from them or you're selling yourself. And so when I do career coaching or interview training, I will help my clients navigate based off of their truth. So they'll say their answer and I'll say, okay, your feeling of this answer of your strength is this, but the way you navigated it didn't sell yourself properly or as well as it should, or you opened up a can of worms, which you shouldn't have. Right now, you're not reducing a red flag. You might be even making it worse. So don't feel the need to improvise so much. Really try to, and don't sound robotic either, right? It's there's that fine line of between, but if you can get in that between and know yourself, the confidence is going to be the number one thing, no matter what kind of interview setting. In terms of virtual, one tip I'll give, because there's a lot of them out there, and you can even look me up. I've got articles out the wazoo on interviewing, and especially virtual. Actually, I wrote a few during the Zoom days. But the one tip that I always liked was, if there's that little eye on your camera, put a little sticky note next to it, but not covering it. Yeah. And then when you're doing the interview, look at that the whole time.
I
Not
agree.
that, so it looks like you're looking at them and you're not having to have any sort of remember. Oh yeah, like that will keep you on track, because that little reminder, as soon as you start to wander, you're like, oh, I got to go back to the paper over there. That little sticky note.
Yeah. Yes. And it's eye contact, right? Which is vital in an in-person interview, and that's how you generate that feeling in a webcam interview. But it's great advice, because what you're saying, the research is key. You need to know the company and you need to know yourself. These are the two key points. You need to know the company because you need to know is this company interesting to you? Having clarity on what the company does, and you don't want to go in there not knowing. It's immediately obvious when you do not do the research, and you are out, just so you know.
Exactly.
Yeah. So do that research, and then through that research, it will give you clarity to know what types of questions that you want to ask, right? What you need to know and what you want to ask. And then knowing yourself, like you said, you have to know yourself to be comfortable in order to share those stories, share those accomplishments, to be able to throw them out when they ask you the questions. My favorite, though, with interviewees interviewing is asking the questions around the position. I feel like those are the absolute most vital questions you can ask, because when you ask questions, even if you know, ask them anyway and get them talking about the questions, because they're giving you the answers. They're literally giving you the answers of what they want. And then you can take, knowing yourself and knowing your stories, you just take those little stories and you pop them in. You're like, oh, guess what? I've done that for this client. And this is what I was able to do for them. Boom, boom, boom. And it's just how you basically, like you said, you're taking away the red flags for the hiring manager. Slowly but surely, you need to unravel those red flags. And that's how you do it, by knowing your story, popping them in the right questions and answers, period. So really great.
Yeah. And as recruiters, when I recruited for 12 years. I haven't done it though since 2012. So I went off into the career coaching route, resume writing, just naturally based off of what we did kind of sort of in the role anyway at the time. So, I hate to say it, but I went right to the experience section. I never looked at cover letters or summaries.
Never looked at cover letters. Same.
Yeah. Is this person decent worker in general, of a history? Okay, cool. Do they have a succession plan that lines up kind of with what I'm trying to hire for? Cool. Now let's get into they need a degree. Okay, let's go see. Okay, they need, MS project. Let's go see. So knowing that, the experience section is so vital, and every recruiter's different. Some will not send you forward because you misspelled. They have the luxury of having so many diamonds in the rough that they're able to tell that person and go away. Whereas I was always like, benefit of the doubt. Let's see if this person's going to work or not. Because like you said, I'm not the culture gap stop for this role. I'm not the person that's dictating the personality fit. I'm there to see if you're going to flow into this role easily and from an experiential standpoint, right? Let the hiring managers, which this is just me and you spitballing, but I feel that, hiring managers are the ones should be asking, tell me about yourself, because you want to see if this person's nuts or if they're going to be someone that you can work with for a long time and they're going to make your life easier. Whereas I'm like checking the boxes. Hey, they've got a 10.
Can you do the job? Yeah.
Oh, come through, so totally different mindsets when hiring, but you got to play the game as a candidate for everybody. The technical people, the non-technical people all have a different way of vetting. And so I always say, walk softly, carry a big stick to my clients, be very pragmatic and show off your value and your perception as you want. It's not a test. You don't have a history exam. And if you go in the interview room, you screwed up who was the founder. This is your marketing sheet. That's your resume, your sales collateral to LinkedIn, and your messaging to everyone at that office from day one. All of it's being perceived in, okay, is this person worth our while? Well, not only that, how much are they worth? How much we got to pay this person? Because at that point, now you're actually talking about, if you can present yourself so well, you might get some more money out of it, right? So walk softly, carry big stick. Don't talk if you're not asked to talk. Don't try to come up to them and drop a crap or a hell or stuff like that, because they will look at you and judge you every single thing. So breathe, pragmatic, get to the point during the interview of why you are alleviating whatever that question is trying to do, and move on. Don't brag it out. And please have more than one project to talk about. I hate when I interview and it was like, here comes that migration project again, for the fifth time. Guys, girls need, each answer should be a different win. You've done enough in your career, unless your early career, which they're probably not going to grill you as hard anyway. You've done enough. So take an hour and go search back in your head or emails, whatever it takes to get a certain amount of wins down that you can just pull from on the fly, that whatever kind of works as a relatable thing.
Absolutely. Yes. And that is vital advice. And to have all of that ready to go. I mean, that's the stuff you want to be prepared with way before your interview and practicing it. Absolutely. Yeah. And no, I mean, we covered the cover letter and we kind of just glossed over that and said neither one of us listened to it or look at it. I think this is actually really important. I kind of want to go back to it really quick, because really the best advice that I would say, and I would love to know if you feel the same, is that email. The email is what's key. And the email, like you said before, it's not adding more, it's adding less. It's being very specific about what you add. So the email is short. It is sweet. It is to the point with just a few bullet points from the job description that they're looking for. You're like, yes, I have this. Yes, I have this. Yes, I have this. And then there's your resume, right? Would you?
Yeah, you sell yourself at every aspect. Follow-up letter, you should be reiterating something that will make them remember you of what you connected with, and an intro email, whatever, always sell. So never just be casual of, hey, thanks for your time. Hope I can be a good, always, hey, don't forget, because you won't have much interaction with them. So Yes, email is email is usually the first time they interact with you. So make sure it's not casual or quirky or funny or ambiguous. Be yourself, how you would be, and present it with, like you said, not wasting their time. They're all busybodies, and half the time hiring managers are dragged in at 4 o'clock on a Thursday, look at resumes, they don't want to be there anyway. And so we got to help them help you, right? So again, walk like your big stick. Now, as far as the cover letters, I'm the half that doesn't look at them, but there's the quirky half that does, and they mandate them, right? So I tell people you don't have to get too crazy on customizing it. Just if you can essentially have a nice one that works for any given fill in the blank title.
Yes.
If it's a business analyst, if there's a one-off business analyst role that is so much different than the others, well, then maybe you should tailor it if you like that, if you really like that company. But most will have the general stuff, right? So have that kind of one in your pocket as an addendum. Play the game where it goes, do you want to upload anything else? Yeah. Here's a cover letter in case one of your hiring managers is just too wonky and needs to see it. And it's surprising that some recruiters mandate them too. I just got off of a seminar type thing where the recruiters, like they actually use it as one of their like vetting process.
Oh,
like,
wow.
and you could tell, the types. So I won't go down that hole, but it's just like, okay, well, have fun.
So maybe not a complete waste.
Yeah, exactly. So play the game, though. The game is resume, cover letter, LinkedIn. That's the big three. If you do above and beyond, good for you. But if you are wanting to play the game and be in the sandbox with everybody else hiring, you got to have those three things under your belt. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, just kind of set it and forget it type thing. Unless now there are a couple cover letters that are cool, like the disruptive one, or there's a brand advocate one, a pain one. There's different kinds of cover letters. Like the brand advocate one's pretty neat. It would essentially just tell Apple how much you love their phone and here's your earliest memory of it. And, whatever the thing that tells them how you have a story about the product or resonates with you, that goes, then it resonates with them, right? So you put some work into some of the cover letters. It may actually be more of of an advantage, but again, you don't know because every hiring manager is different.
Yeah.
Every recruiter is different, and staffing is wonky as it is ever after the pandemic. So again,
it's more like you don't rely on it. You don't rely on it, but you use it. You have it as the tool in your back pocket, but you don't rely on it. That's
yeah. The resume is still king, though. I mean, 9 out of 10 hiring managers, I would say, are focused on the resume.
Yeah. Generally, the cover letter gets read after I've decided after I've already decided if I want to interview them. Honestly, that's generally when I'll that's generally when I'll take a look and learn a little more. It's ironic, but really that's just how the time works in this industry. It's a fast paced, quick review, which is important to know when you are on the other side to how to get their attention. So we mentioned LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is a very big strategic aspect for your job search. Are there any advice that you would give people about utilizing LinkedIn in ways that maybe they're not thinking about?
Yes. So as of March 6th, 2024, my advice for LinkedIn, because April 6th, it might be completely different with how fast LinkedIn updates things and removes things and does this bell and this whistle. I can't keep up, and I'm the LinkedIn expert. But no, luckily they kind of give us heads up on stuff. But I would say first and foremost, monitor how LinkedIn's used as a job seeker, because most people just get on there and just let the thing do itself and you just kind of bumble along. Really look up an article. Hey, what are the biggest job seeker tools on LinkedIn right now? And some of those gurus out there are updating it constantly, like Kevin Turner and some of these other guys. So focus on how the game is played on LinkedIn, and you can research that. B, fill in your LinkedIn as robust as possible and use the auto populating features, because now it's linked to other software LinkedIn offers like LinkedIn Recruiter. So in order for you to find people sometimes on LinkedIn Recruiter, it's going to use that data. It's parsing from these profiles. So make sure you've got it all buttoned up in sense of being filled out properly. I'm in the tent, the camp. I'm so bad with references today. I've been doing that all day. Like, what's that word? I'm in the camp of match it with the resume, because I wouldn't want to be a recruiter stuck in a hiring manager room, and they see the LinkedIn and I have the resume and it's not jiving. I don't think it's a place for your Facebook type of stuff. I feel like it's very much a professional digital profile of you. So treat it as such. Don't get too casual and swearing and stuff. Unless you're a small business owner like myself, who has nothing to lose. Well, I guess I have everything to lose, but it's one of my little techniques, right? One of my sales strategies. I try to be in your face. If you're a job seeker, again, summary, have the summary match your summary skills, beef them up, whatever the skills are that you know in your world that are the main ones, get those as the top, whatever they now 5 or 10, I think they show. And then you want to ask for references. That's key. Cause again, little visibility bumps. And now here's an experience to experience, right? Education. One thing I would say is for your header, you want to use your title in your header still. Now, with Google and LinkedIn kind of against each other right now, being that, Google's not X-raying LinkedIn profiles like they used to. It might change. Again, it's constantly changing all this stuff. But as of right now that I know of, you need your title and your header, right? So maybe if you're a project manager, accomplished project manager, and then have a little button up something after that, right? With a focus on the full life cycle, or with experience managing over 1,000 projects on time and within budget, whatever. That's just, they can immediately put you into again, that perception that you want them to be, that you want them to see, right? So don't be casual with your header either. That's like the first thing they're going to see. Be very, in fact, ChatGPT and find one that really looks good for you. You want to wow them with as much as you can, right? And that's one of those little cheats are that header.
Yeah. Oh, I love the advice of using ChatGPT for your interview process, as well as looking at LinkedIn and how people are using LinkedIn as a job seeker. That's really great advice, because they are always coming up with different ways to be using LinkedIn. And if you learn how to learn, essentially, LinkedIn, right? And keep learning how to learn LinkedIn, that's just going to benefit you throughout. So.
Exactly. Yep. And then you put it to use now. So like the second part of that is how to use LinkedIn. It's like, well, my program is built where, I force my clients to essentially just start cold messaging and get in these circles and make some waves, because it's, as long as what your messaging is about, you probably aren't going to make anyone mad, right? And so essentially what we're trying to do is just offer value to people. Here's an article I saw, Mr. Manager, Mrs. Manager, relates to your company. Just want to make sure you caught it. I admire your profile. I follow everything you do. Hey,
super helpful. Yes.
Yeah. You've been in this company for 10 years. I love your succession there. Yes. Looks like a great company. I always wanted to kind of get into there. I'd love to pick your brain about what it takes to be a good candidate for this kind of company. But again, that even is kind of that mini ask, right? So you got to kind of build it to that point. And so 2 to 9 months is the average job hunt. Well, then take 2 months to really start tickling people around LinkedIn and put it in your calendar to keep continuously sticking to it. And it might start to bloom eventually, right? So it's not wasting time. It's wasting time when you spray and pray all day. This stuff is that grassroots stuff that might come to fruition depending on how you're putting out your message and stuff. So, help ChatGPT to help with that.
I love it. I call it the long game, really. I mean, look, when you're starting your search, like you said, it's going to take a bit of time. So you might as well start your search with a couple of different tiers, right? I mean, you have the tier of like, you're going and applying to jobs, but you also want to be thinking about, well, what's my dream job? Like, if I could pick any job, what would that be? And what are those companies and who are working at those companies? And yes, and those are the people you want to be connecting with, sending little articles to, or just little helpful thing, just, hey, here I am. And if something comes along, I would love to work with your company. And then, little comments on their, like their comments on LinkedIn, or comment on their article that they posted. It's just that reiteration. It's a long game, right? Of like, to see if that ideal, even if there's not a job available, maybe there will be in a month and you're on their mind, So.
Yes. And the liking and sharing and commenting is so important, because they'll keep seeing your name. And then I've even went one step far with LinkedIn, personally with LinkedIn, because I'm always trying to engage with their career team. And I started hitting up Andrew Seaman, who's like their head guy for careers, through Instagram, just commenting on his photos and that stuff. We kind of built some rapport doing that outside of LinkedIn. So find some of these decision makers, if they have a personal profile, and you can, hey, that's a cute dog or whatever.
Really good.
Simple and sweet. And they're like, oh, they're seeing that name recognition, right? So and eventually you might have that email where you go, okay, I feel like I'm comfortable enough. Now I'm going to ask them if they can look at my resume. Eventually there'll be that time.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's great advice, and just really, really smart for people to be thinking about if they're currently doing a search. So, I mean, and thinking about people searching, and we know that the process can take time, and it can be difficult for people. And sometimes that process goes on for longer than you would hope for, or can really deal with. I'm curious if you had any advice that you give people who might be battling anxiety around this post layoff that is going on for too long for them.
Yeah. So, well, and if from the macro level, I always tell clients, or I'll say it at the end of these kind of things, where they go, "What do you want to leave the audience with?" I always say, hiring sucks for both sides, and it's arduous and it's time consuming. You got to source and vet and background check and reference check and then deal with the little interviews and the macro interviews and or whatever, or it's just constantly a battle to get good talent. And once they do, then people quit and they got to do it again, right? After the induction and training. So that's why we're very much like, let's try to do this really, really
Yeah.
right? The first
Right.
time. So don't come in hot. If you're anxious or you're mad or whatever, don't display that to them. Come in again, walk softly, carry a big stick. You can go complain to your spouse later, or
Yes.
your friends, or your career coach. We're
Yeah.
part-time therapists. We're not in HR, we're in the human services business. And so essentially, that's the audience, not these strangers that don't owe you nothing. They don't owe you
Mhm.
anything. So you
Mhm.
best be on your best behavior, right? So, mind the audience and their feelings too. Not everyone's going to feel bad for you, really. I mean,
Mhm.
it's what it is. Life's hard. Find some support. Career coaching, I battled anxiety for 4 years after I was laid off as a recruiter. And man, just start my business and relocate across the country while battling these kind of demons that I had built up just from not taking care of myself over a few year span.
Yeah. Mhm.
Because I was so beaten down by work, trying to do two different careers. I was doing screenwriting, writing, or stand up and acting at night. And so I would focus so much energy that, the diet went away and the
Mhm.
exercise and the church and everything else. So I had to kind of refocus and find myself again. So
Yeah.
I tell people, when you have anxiety, it's probably your innate, inner self just trying to scream for help because you're not
Mhm.
doing something right. So take the time to get yourself personally invested in yourself, so then you can go and help someone else and invest in them with your career and your value, because that's what the name of the game is. Somebody's going to pay you to do something. I mean, that's
Mhm.
pretty wild to think of, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to get paid to do something. So you got to be pretty darn, pretty darn focused, right? You can't have some of this stuff going with you. So whether that's, getting out there and exercising, or leaning on other people, or in some cases, if it's severe, finding the treatments. I never luckily had to do that, but I mean, I turned to booze for a little bit. I'm a drinker still, but I mean, obviously I got under control more now, but it was, it's kind of what I did. Right. So,
Yeah.
you just you gotta cut out the bad stuff, get back onto the good stuff, or find what's probably innately driving you crazy from that kind of standpoint. And then it will reflect on a job hunt, having that positivity. I always tell my clients day one, if they got laid off, hey, look, this is that tickle in the belly moment. Let's find something new. Let's get excited about this. It
Mhm.
shouldn't be
Yes.
something nerve wracking. If you have the wherewithal to to have some funds where you can do a selective job hunt, even better, because now you can make your own path and figure
Yes.
out a way to find that enlightenment of a career.
Mhm.
Not so much, the dream. I want to be PGA golfer, but something that's pragmatic, that you're like, now my life is better. I'm making the money I should be doing. I'm
Exactly.
doing the work right. So to do that, it, takes those changes.
Yeah.
You really got to work hard.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I give same advice when I talk to people who've been laid off, because doing this for as long as you have, you see the cycles, right? You see them, you see the cycles, and absolutely, if there's a layoff that happens, if you're fired, generally what that means to me is this no longer was the right opportunity for you. You weren't going to make the decision. You were going to stay there. The universe came in, they moved you. Now it's time to find something better. There's something better for you out there. I 100% believe that. Sometimes it takes a little longer than others, but there's 100% something better for you out there. And what you said was spot on, as far as you have to shift. It's like the shifting the energy, right? Because when you have that anxiety, if you've been out for work a long time, and I've noticed this when I talk to people, it is an anxiety provoking thing, and it creates a lot of negative emotions, and after a while it absolutely starts to create bitterness, and
Mhm.
that is something that you can feel and hear in an interview
Mhm.
process, and that will take you out of the interview process. So a lot of times that could be it right there, just how you're feeling is coming across, and that takes you out. And so I like to tell people, I think this is something that I love. I like to tell people to make a list of me. And it kind of goes along with your accomplishments, right? Which is helps with your accomplishments for business. So you'd have all your business accomplishments, but also all of your personal, right? So anything that anybody you've helped, you write down. Anything that you're proud of doing, you write down. All of the accomplishments, all the things that make you you, all the things that make you special. You make this big comprehensive list of all of the positive of you going back years. Okay. And I want you just to make this comprehensive list that you kind of just soak in, if you will, before any kind of a meeting. So you go and review all of these beautiful things about yourself, all of your accomplishments, all the things you've done to help other people. And you read that before you go into your interview, and you feel really good about yourself, that confidence, that calmness, that knowing yourself, knowing your story, going back to that and feeling good about it. And you bring that into your interview. And that can also make a very big difference. So,
Absolutely. Yep. Idle hands. You can't, when you have anxious job hunts and stuff, you can't let the day go by. Get a calendar in place, even if it's a calendar of, I'm going to job hunt for this half hour and I'm going to go meditate for this half hour, do some positive affirmations, that stuff. It's like negative self-talk is like a killer. So if you can get out of the cycle and distract yourself at first, hey, great. Cause then you distract yourself. And then now you can actually start doing original thoughts again and not being bogged down by, the panic attack that might be coming.
exactly.
It all starts exactly like you're saying with positive self-talk, because the negative one is really negative.
Yeah. Yeah. I also like to tell people that everyone should have a humble brag folder. And
Oh
anytime
yeah.
someone gives you a compliment or, says something good about your work or anything, if it's not written down, you write it down and send it yourself and put it in that little email humble brag folder and then go review all that too. So that's, two ways to make yourself feel real good.
That helps us resume writers, because I tell my clients, as soon as I'm done with their resume, I go, now start a brag folder. So when we update this thing, all you gotta do is send me that. We don't have to deal with you trying to mull over for a week.
Exactly. Really, really great advice all around. I'm curious, Matt, because I believe in feeding the mind proactively, and especially, during times when you might be out of work and having anxiety, whatnot, very important to be feeding your mind proactively. And so I'm just curious, is there anything that you have read, watched, or listened to that has benefited you in some way that could potentially benefit others?
Yeah, so I did start the Zig Ziglar's positive affirmations last year. I do like it. It's a little robust, so
Mm-hmm.
yourself about a minute. It's not a 10-seconder. This John Acuff, Acuff. He really resonated with me. Good guy, just seems like he knew what he was doing in terms of just positivity type stuff. Nothing that's earth shattering either. Probably, good voice to listen to go along with it. So I do like Acuff if anyone wants to get into like a program or at least read his stuff that's free out there. But yes, surrounding yourself with, again, like you're saying, being proactive is key, because if you start to slip again, the demons kind of start crawling out again. So, and I can even tell if I miss like a couple weeks running, I start to get a little stir crazy. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm like an advocate working out person. I do it 5 days a week. So that just helps me. So find what is going to help you and stick to it, because like you said, if you let yourself go, it'll start to bubble.
Yeah, absolutely. No, this has been so valuable, Matt. Thank you so much for your time. Before you go, though, I'd love to ask you one final question, just out of curiosity. What is your personal superpower and how does it benefit you?
Oh, I will say right now, because I have a 6-week-old, and I have a 5-year-old kid, and my superpower with my kids, I know it's corny, but now that I'm a dad, and the 5-year-old is like my best friend. Like I've
Mm,
cried missing him, just
no.
dropping him off at school sometimes. Like
Yeah,
I just love this kid, and I feel like sometimes my work gets in the way. So I'm very mindful of trying to set time aside. But yeah, my superpowers are like, I guess, trying to be the best dad I can be.
mm,
And I know I still have some of my own demons I'm tackling that isn't disrupting our day to day or disrupting my provision of a lifestyle, but definitely stuff I got to clean up a little. So they're helping me become a better person.
right,
And yeah, I love being a dad. It is, I can't, when I see the stories of dads leaving, it's like, how do you wrap your head around this?
right,
I couldn't
right.
even imagine it, right? So you hear some of these stories, you're like, wow, people are messed up. But for me, it's like, easy. And so I think my superhero power is literally, like
I love
being
it.
appreciative of being a dad, right?
Yeah, I love it. That's so awesome. It is such a beautiful time. It's a great, great time. Congratulations on your 6-week-old as well. It's very
Yes. Thank you. A little baby girl. We got the best
yeah,
of both worlds.
wonderful. Yeah, you're fully in the mix right now. So thank you for taking time to chat with us and share your wisdom, Matt. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. And is it okay if I plug my website real quick?
Absolutely. And I'll add it in the show notes too.
Cool. So, and mine's a quirky one. It's my company's MJW Careers, but go to jobstickers.com. It's like pot stickers, jobstickers.com, your favorite appetizer. And there's my link tree to all my worlds. So yeah, I'd love to help anyone. And if anyone listening wants a free resume review, get at me, mention this podcast. I'll send you a free resume review, and I'll even send you my LinkedIn backdoor job hunting guide that is continuously updated with neat stories you hear of people using LinkedIn, and kind of creeps into some guerrilla marketing, but I don't want to talk about billboards. No one, easy on spending money on a billboard with your resume on it. Let me know and I'll share my LinkedIn guide.
I love it. And that's incredibly generous. Thank you so much, Matt. This has been great.
Thank you, Jolie. Have a good rest of your day.
You too.
Thank you for joining us on the Career Wanderlust podcast. If you find value in learning from others, give us a like and subscribe. If you're looking to grow your communications, marketing, public relations, or sales and biz dev team with the best talent and quickly, check us out at paradigmstaffing.com and submit a request. We are wishing you a most successful and fulfilling career. Until next time.